Howdy Bubs and welcome back. Today we're going to get started into GameMaker and showing off how you can begin adding code elements to your objects. So in your case you should already have a game created. I'm going to just quickly create a new one for video game design class. So hopping into here, you should have some collection of sprites that you've been working on. In fact, you should have 3. I am going to quickly create a few sprites, 2 sprites. In fact, this will be SPR player, and then I'm going to create another sprite. This will be SPR, and this will be player 2. So very quickly, I'm just going to go into here. This is going to be a white box with a black outline. Alright, there is SPR player complete. SPR player 2, I'm going to create as a this colored box with, once again, a black outline. Now that I have quickly created 2 sprites, actually I want to do one thing with player 2. Let me edit this and give it a front, something that we can clearly identify as being the front of it. Let me pick a different color. I guess black should be fine. So let's see. This is 0, so 31 and 32 should be the middle. And I'm going to bring this over to there. Alright, so we know what the front is because it's got this here. This is why I had mentioned before all of your sprites should be facing towards the right, because when we are referencing the image angle, 0 degrees is considered over here, 90 at the top, 180 at the left, and 270 facing the bottom. We'll see that demonstrated at the end of this video. I'm going to then make sure my origin point for my sprite is in the middle center. The origin point is used to reference where the sprite is within the room. We're going to look at this in a little bit more detail, but just make sure they're both middle center, or depending on how your sprite looks, you've simply moved this to the middle of where your sprite's body is, since you'd created creatures or a person or something. Now that we have the 2 sprites created, I'm going to go ahead and create an object. Objects are the main game component for all of GameMaker Studio. You have tons of objects. The objects are what you actually see in the rooms. The objects have all the code attached to it, and they are what is used to play the game. So I'm going to call this obj_player. This by itself has nothing. There's nothing attached to it. It is empty. We are going to at least attach its sprite by selecting here, going to our sprites folder, and finding first my player sprite. Now that I have the player sprite set up, I can go ahead and I'm going to create the first event that we're going to be dealing with. In order for our character to do something, we need to add code to it. If I were to go into my room right now and place the player inside the room and hit the play button, this builds up the game for us. This is all I have. I can't do anything. I have my room, which is empty, and just the player. we need to add code to this, which we can do with events. Starting off, I'm going to show how to get the player to move to the right. So I'm going to have a key down event. Whenever I press the right arrow key, this will then pop up asking which language you want to do. Don't ask again for this project. We're going to be doing GML code. In here, this is going to address, this is a little comment section that explains what this code does. And so movement right. That's what we're doing here. I'm going to reference my current X value. This is the position of where that center crosshair was that we looked at the sprite is in reference to the room. This will be some value between 0 and whatever width our room is. Remember, 0 is in the left side and the maximum is all the way to the right. I want to increase my current X value by adding to my X value some number. So I'm going to go with 5. What this does is increases X position by 5 pixels. Now, whenever I hit play, the code is attached to the object. So now if I press the right arrow key, we see our box moves to the right. It doesn't do anything else right now because I haven't programmed anything else. Your challenge will be to add the rest of the movement. So that way your character, whatever it is, can move up, down, right, and left. Moving towards the right or left, you might assume uses the X value. Moving up and down, you'll be using the Y value. This next portion, I'm going to show how to rotate the sprite or rotate the object in the room. I'm going to create a new object. I'm going to call this obj_player2. I'm going to attach the player2 sprite that I created earlier. I'm going to make sure I add that to the room so we can see this one. And then returning back to our object, add in a little bit of code, and I'm going to show us how to rotate the object. When I press down the right key, again, you can see the whole list of everything that you can do. This will, I want this to rotate counterclockwise. Actually, no, this is clockwise. So in here, to reference the angle I'm currently facing is actually image_angle. I want to update this by taking our current image_angle, and to rotate clockwise means that we rotate to the right. It's actually going to be negative. So I'm going to subtract 5 degrees. And so what this does is rotates clockwise 5 degrees. Now whenever I run this, I press right, the object for player moves to the right, and now the object for player 2 simply rotates in place clockwise. Your challenge is to create a system so that way your main player object, you're not going to have 2 of these, you're only going to have 1. Your player object not only can move up, down, left, and right, but also rotate. It's up to you to decide what controls or keys you want to use. In addition to that, the last thing I'm going to set up is how to create tiles so that way your room looks more interesting then a large black field. This is going to be a different type of sprite. Go ahead and hit sprite. In here, we're going to want to enlarge this a decent bit more. The reason being is that this is going to be SPR tile set that we're going to eventually create. Because over here, we're going to create a tile set. This is going to be TS room 1, the tile set for room 1. We need to select an existing sprite, such as SPR tile set, and it automatically will try to carve it up based off of what it thinks that we're supposed to be working with. And so for it to work nicely, we will need to create it much larger. And if we do auto tiling, we want to end up using the 16 tile orientation for this, so it's easier for us to create it. But for us to have 16 tiles, we need to make sure that there are in fact 16 spaces, but the top left space is always empty. So this would only give us 15. We need to create something slightly larger that supports us having as many spots or blocks as we need. So with this plan in mind, let's go ahead and move back up to our sprite. I'm going to enlarge the sprite to be 320 by 320. So we have enough space to create everything that we need. Apply, we now have a much larger sprite. The origin for this does not really matter because it's going to be used for a tile set. So let's go ahead and edit this. And I'm going to use the toggle grid so we know the cutoff points for each of the blocks. So the grid needs to be 64 by 64. And now we need to fill up at least 16 of these with the tile layout that we need. I've taken a small snippet of what this looks like here. So we need a clear block, a corner block, right corner, top, left corner, left side, middle, a corner wall, and so on and so forth until it's completely filled in for us to effectively use the tiles. So with that in mind, follow along. I'm going to use just a basic white box outline for, actually no, I want this to be another color. Let's do gray. I'm gonna zoom in a little closer so I can see exactly what we're working with. So there we go. That's our first box. That addresses the solid floor equivalent. Next, this one will address our corner wall. Actually, let me go ahead and just fill the floor gray because it's all going to be gray. This top left corner actually does not matter. It gets erased anyways. So it's irrelevant. Now for the third cube, we just need this corner to be walled off. So I am going to just use, let's use green. So I'm just going to take up this corner. Let's see. This one is 15 pixels. Let me make this 32. And this one will be green, so get that in the corner. There we go, we're done. According to this, the next one needs to be the top right corner. There we go, we're done. This one will be just the entire top half. Nope, I messed that up. Should probably use the box. Nope, that's not it either. Line. There we go. That covers the top half. Next is bottom left corner. Left side. Middle. And then the wall along everything except for the bottom right corner. Then bottom right corner. Middle this way. The right side. Everything except for the bottom left. Bottom wall. Everything except for the top right. And then everything except for the top left. And then finally just a solid one. There. This is good enough. It's not going to look amazing, but it'll get the job done. So now that we have this created, we have all of the tiles 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. All of them are here. Let's go ahead and go back into our tile set. We're going to modify this slightly. This is going to be using 64 width and 64 pixel height. And now I'm going to select the tiles correctly. Top left, top right, top. Let me stretch this out so it's easy to see. Bottom left, left wall, middle. And since we did everything in order, this is fairly straightforward as just matching them. Now that we have done this using the auto tile, when I go back into the room, I can simply add in a tile layer, select which tile set we want, this one, go to brushes, libraries, and now I can simply place this down. And to make sure it looks nice, make sure we put the tile layer below our instances so our boxes are on top. And now we can kind of build it out correctly so that way we have little paths and whatnot. Now remember, this is purely visual. This does not actually impact anything within our game, but it makes it look slightly better. And gives you now the tools to create a slightly better looking background than just having a blank field. And there you go. Your challenge now is to go in and create your own tile set based off of what instructions I have provided. Make sure your your single player object has everything set up correctly, rotates correctly, and can move around in all 4 directions. If you have any questions, just let me know in class. Otherwise, that's all I've got. Everyone, have a good one. I just wanted to say thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Shout out to my bad bubs, my top 5, my day ones. Y'all have always been there for me. Next up, my baby bubs, the next 5. I always love y'all's support.
And finally, for everyone else, any little bit helps. Thank you to all my basic bubs for supporting me along my journey. If you want to continue receiving notifications, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell button.